Stranger among stars. The Grand Nexus station glittered like a jewel against the deep purple nebula backdrop, its 100-kilometer span housing representatives from 37 species across the Orion Arm. Ilara Chen watched the approaching docking rings through the viewport of the small research vessel, her reflection ghosted against the stars. 6 months stationed here, and she still felt the weight of alien gazes following her every move. Xenobiologist Chen, prepare for docking sequence, the ship's AI announced. Station security requests your immediate presence at Checkpoint Gamma upon arrival. Ilara sighed, running a hand through her short black hair. What is it this time? AI. No information provided. Standard procedure for Class 4 species returning from unauthorized expeditions. Class 4. Deathworlder. Dangerous. Unpredictable. These labels had followed humanity since first contact 70 years ago. The Galactic Conclave had nearly refused them membership entirely after discovering Earth's extreme environmental parameters. Who could trust beings evolved under such harsh conditions? 2.5x standard gravity. Atmospheric toxin resistance. Endurance running capabilities. Omnivorous digestive systems with acid strong enough to dissolve metal. The list of human abnormalities never ended. The docking clamps secured with a metallic thud that rattled through her bones. Ilara gathered her sample case and research materials, making sure the seal on her specimen containers was secure. The myriad bloom she'd collected from the abandoned moon outpost was technically protected under Science Guild regulations. Technically. 2 Vanturi security officers waited at the airlock, their avian features impassive beneath sleek combat helmets. Standing over 8 feet tall with iridescent plumage, trimmed short for military service, they made Ilara feel like a child in comparison. Arms extended, Chen. The left one chirped, mandibles clicking beneath translucent face shields. Ilara complied, having learned months ago that arguing only extended these interactions. The scanner hummed over her body, calibrated specifically for human physiology. Your expedition was not logged with Central Command, the right Vanturi said, scrolling through a hovering holographic display. Violation code 5.38 under non-native species movement restriction. I filed the paperwork 3 standard cycles ago, Ilara countered, pulling up her own documentation on her wrist terminal. Science Guild authorization, Section J. The Vanturi exchanged glances, their head feathers rippling slightly, a sign of annoyance in their species. The Science Guild does not supersede security protocols, human, especially not for Class 4 species operating independently. The left officer reached for her sample case. These will need to be analyzed before. That's a direct violation of Scientific Preservation Code, Ilara interrupted, stepping between the officer and her samples. These specimens degrade rapidly under non-native scanning procedures. I have clearance. A new voice joined the conversation, smooth like polished stone. Let her pass. Ilara turned to see Krelix, the station's xenobiology liaison, approaching on 4 articulated limbs. The Tellurian's translucent skin pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, a sign of agitation. Ambassador Krelix, the Vanturi officer acknowledged with a slight bow. This human has violated. I am aware of xenobiologist Chen's activities, Krelix interrupted, upper limbs weaving a pattern that indicated formal rank assertion. Her work falls under my division's authority. The Council has specifically requested her findings on the abandoned precursor outposts. The officers hesitated, then stepped aside. Ilara followed Krelix toward the inner hub, matching his smooth gliding pace. Thank you, she murmured when they were out of earshot. Don't thank me yet, Krelix replied, bioluminescent patterns shifting to worried blues. Commander Vexlor has been asking questions about your research. The Security Council believes you're accessing restricted zones. I'm following the exact coordinates provided in the research brief, Ilara said, clutching her sample case tighter. If they're restricted, nobody bothered to mark them that way in the database. Perhaps deliberately so. Krelix guided her into a private lift tube, engaging the privacy field. You found something, didn't you? Something beyond botanical samples. Ilara studied her colleague carefully. Though they'd worked together for months, trust came slowly on the Grand Nexus. Still, Krelix had proven himself different from most, actually treating her as a scientist first and a dangerous human second. The outpost wasn't abandoned, she said finally. It was quarantined. There was precursor technology still active inside, behind barriers I could pass through, but my drone couldn't. Krelix's skin turned nearly transparent with shock, his species equivalent of turning pale. Barriers specifically attuned to block non-biological entities. Ilara nodded, then reached into an interior pocket of her research vest. The object she withdrew was small enough to fit in her palm. A metallic ovoid with faintly glowing blue lines etched across its surface in patterns too regular to be natural, too fluid to be mechanical. It recognized me somehow, responded to my touch when I reached the central chamber. She turned the artifact slowly. The markings matched nothing in the xenolinguistic database. Krelix kept all 4 limbs carefully away from the object. May I scan it? Ilara nodded, and Krelix produced a small device from one of his storage pouches, passing it over the artifact without touching it. Impossible, he whispered as readings scrolled across his scanner. It's emanating quantum signatures similar to conscious brain patterns. The artifact is semi-sentient. Before Ilara could respond, the lift slowed unexpectedly. The privacy field disengaged, and the doors slid open to reveal Commander Vexlor flanked by 4 elite Vanturi guards. The tall, serpentine Kasathi administrator regarded Ilara with compound eyes that reflected her image dozens of times over. Xenobiologist Chin, he hissed, upper body swaying slightly in the traditional Kasathi greeting. How fortunate to encounter you directly upon your return. We have matters to discuss. Ilara quickly pocketed the artifact, but Vexlor's compound eyes missed nothing. One clawed hand extended. Unauthorized retrieval of precursor artifacts is a violation of Conclave Treaty, Section 17. Relinquish the object immediately. Krelix moved slightly, positioning himself between Ilara and the commander. With respect, Commander, we haven't determined if this object falls under precursor classification. It requires further study under Science Guild protocols. Vexler's scales darkened, a sign of anger. The human will surrender the object for security evaluation. Now, Ilara knew what security evaluation meant. Destruction, or worse, disappearance into some classified research facility. Her mind raced through options, legal channels, procedural loopholes, finding none that wouldn't end with the artifact confiscated. Of course, Commander, she said, reaching into her pocket. I understand the concerns. Her fingers closed around the artifact, and immediately she felt an unusual warmth spread through her palm. The blue markings brightened suddenly, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. A wave of dizziness washed over her, and she heard Vexlor shouting as if from a great distance. When her vision cleared, the artifact had transformed. No longer an inert ovoid, it had unfolded into an intricate lattice of light and metal that wrapped around her wrist like a gauntlet, its glow illuminating the shocked faces around her. Human treachery. Vexlor hissed, backing away as his guards drew weapons. She's activated a precursor weapon. I didn't. Ilara began, but the artifact responded to her surprise, projecting a field of shimmering energy that deflected the first stun blast from a guard's weapon. Run, Krelix shouted, using his body to block the corridor. Secondary maintenance shaft, Section 42. I'll find you. Ilara didn't wait for a second warning. As the guard struggled to restrain the thrashing Tellurian, she sprinted down a side corridor, the artifact on her wrist pulsing brighter with each pounding heartbeat. Alarms blared throughout the station, and the automated announcement system switched to emergency protocols. Attention all personnel. Class 4 biological threat detected. Security lockdown initiated in sectors 5 through 9. All non-security personnel must evacuate affected areas immediately. Her breath came in sharp gasps as she rounded a corner, nearly colliding with a group of startled Mrivani engineers. They scattered at the sight of her, multiple eyes widening in fear. "Please," she gasped. "I'm not." But they were already gone, leaving her alone in the corridor as distant shouts indicated pursuit. The maintenance shaft Krelix had mentioned was 2 sections away, through increasingly crowded areas of the station. She'd never make it without being spotted. Unless... Ilara looked up at the environmental control ducts running along the ceiling, narrow channels used for atmosphere regulation. Too small for most species to navigate, but perhaps not for a human. With a determined grunt, she jumped, catching the edge of an access panel, and pulling herself up with strength, born from Earth's punishing gravity. The artifact on her wrist seemed to understand her intent, projecting small handholds of energy where needed. As she pulled herself into the cramped duct system, Ilara realized with grim humor that for once, being a dangerous Deathworlder might be the only thing keeping her alive. DATHWORLD advantage. The environmental ducts of Grand Nexus Station weren't designed for biological entities. Narrow, angled, and periodically interrupted by purification fields, they formed a labyrinthine network that would have been impassable to most sentient species. But Ilara Chen wasn't most species. She crawled on elbows and knees, ignoring the bruises forming on her limbs as she navigated the metal channels. The purification fields, designed to sterilize the passing atmosphere, tingled unpleasantly against her skin, but didn't cause the cellular disruption they would in most aliens. Another alarming human trait: radiation resistance. Small blessings from a Deathworld upbringing, she muttered, checking her wrist terminal for orientation. The artifact clung to her other wrist, its blue light dimmed to a faint glow as if understanding the need for stealth. Occasionally it would pulse, guiding her toward junctions she might have missed. The sensation was uncanny, like having a silent conversation with something ancient and aware. After what felt like hours, but her terminal indicated was only 40 minutes, Ilara reached Maintenance Section 42. Carefully, she slid open an access panel and dropped down into an empty storage room filled with spare parts for atmospheric processors. "I was beginning to think you wouldn't make it," came a familiar voice. Krelix emerged from behind a stack of filtration units, his translucent skin bruised in several places where the guards had handled him roughly. "Are you okay?" Ilara asked, noticing how his limbs trembled slightly. "Better than expected for someone who just committed career suicide by aiding a fugitive," he replied, bioluminescent patterns forming ironic spirals. "Vexlor has declared you an active security threat. The official story is that you've been possessed by precursor technology and pose an infection risk." Ilara slumped against a storage container. "That's absurd. The artifact isn't controlling me. If anything, it's responding to me." "I know," Krelix said quietly. "That's what frightens them. The precursors were the most advanced civilization this galaxy has ever known, and their technology has never responded to any known species. Until you." He moved to a terminal embedded in the wall, bringing up station schematics. "We need to get you to the research vessel docks. I've prepared a ship with blocked registry. You'll have perhaps 6 hours before they can track it." "Wait," Ilara said. "You want me to run? That's admitting guilt. We should appeal to the Science Guild Council. They have jurisdiction over precursor artifacts." Krelix's skin flushed dark blue, deep concern. "The Council won't intervene. Not for a human. Especially not after what happened on Helios Station." Ilara winced at the reference. 2 years ago, a human mining engineer had survived an explosive decompression event that killed 14 other beings, making it back to safety despite exposure to vacuum for nearly 90 seconds. Instead of being celebrated, the incident had reinforced fears about human physiological abnormalities and prompted renewed segregation policies. "So I just disappear. Leave everything behind." "Only temporarily," Krelix assured her. "I've sent messages to my contacts in the Science Academy." There are those who will support proper investigation over fear-mongering. The artifact on Ilara's wrist pulsed suddenly, brightening. Both scientists froze as the storage room door slid open, revealing a single Vanturi guard. For a heartbeat, they stared at each other in mutual surprise. Then the guard reached for his weapon. Ilara moved instinctively, her body propelled by the fight-or-flight response, honed on a world where predators lurked around every corner. She crossed the distance faster than the Vanturi could track, knocking the weapon aside with one hand while the other delivered a palm strike to his thoracic cavity, not hard enough to seriously injure, but enough to disrupt breathing. The guard stumbled back, struggling to draw air through specialized breathing tubes that humans didn't possess. Ilara used the moment to disable his communication device and help ease him to the floor. "I'm sorry," she told the dazed guard. "You'll be able to breathe normally in about 2 minutes." Krelix stared at her with a mixture of alarm and admiration. "You disabled him without causing permanent injury." "Of course," Ilara replied, gathering the guard's weapon. "I'm not trying to hurt anyone. Most species believe humans enjoy violence," Krelix noted as they secured the guard with cargo restraints. "The vids always portray your kind as brutal warriors." "Propaganda," Ilara muttered. "Easier to fear us than understand us." They moved quickly through maintenance corridors, avoiding the main passageways where security would be heaviest. Twice they had to divert when encountering station personnel, once hiding in a waste processing chamber that Krelix could barely tolerate, but Ilara's robust immune system handled with mere discomfort. "Another Deathworld gift?" Krelix asked, noticing her lack of distress. "Earth has diverse microbiomes," she explained with a small smile. "We evolved alongside thousands of pathogens. You adapt." As they neared the research vessel docks, Ilara's artifact began pulsing more insistently. Images flashed through her mind. Star charts, coordinates, fragments of information she couldn't fully comprehend. "It's trying to communicate," she whispered. "I think it wants me to take it somewhere specific." Krelix paused. "The precursor outpost where you found it?" "No, somewhere else." She concentrated on the impressions forming in her consciousness. "A world with similar conditions to Earth. High gravity, diverse biosphere. Another death world," Krelix realized. "There are 17 cataloged in this sector alone, all under quarantine protocols." A distant explosion shook the corridor, followed by emergency klaxons. Ilara's terminal lit up with security alerts. "They're implementing full containment procedures," Krelix said grimly. "Vexlor must be truly desperate to risk station integrity." They reached the research dock to find it swarming with security forces. The small vessel Krelix had prepared was visible through reinforced viewports, but reaching it seemed impossible. "We need another way," Ilara said, scanning their surroundings. Her eyes fell on a maintenance airlock used for external repairs. "What about that?" Krelix followed her gaze. "Madness. That exits to open space. The research vessels are 50 meters away, around the station's curve." "I can make it," Ilara said, already moving toward the airlock. "Impossible. Even with emergency oxygen supplies, the radiation and vacuum exposure will be unpleasant but survivable," she finished for him. "Humans can function without oxygen for up to 3 minutes. The artifact seems to provide some protection too." Krelix's skin shifted to disbelieving patterns. "You would risk death by vacuum to avoid capture." "To avoid starting an interspecies incident," Ilara corrected, accessing the airlock controls. "If they take this artifact and destroy it before we understand its purpose, we lose whatever knowledge the precursors intended to preserve." As she spoke, the artifact's glow intensified, spreading up her arm in circuit-like patterns. Ilara felt strength flowing into her muscles, her senses sharpening. "It's enhancing me somehow," she whispered. The door at the far end of the maintenance bay burst open, revealing Commander Vexlor leading a full security detail. His compound eyes fixed on Ilara with cold determination. "Surrender the precursor device, human," he demanded. Your physiology is being corrupted by alien technology. We can help you by destroying unique technology we barely understand. Ilara challenged, stepping toward the airlock. The artifact chose me for a reason, Commander. It's communicating, not corrupting. Delusions of the infected, Vexilor hissed. The precursors vanished 15,000 years ago. Their technology destroyed worlds. Or saved them, Ilara countered. We'll never know if you destroy everything that doesn't fit your narrative. She glanced at Krelix, who nodded slightly in understanding. As Vexilor signaled his forces to advance, Krelix suddenly lunged toward an environmental control panel, his four limbs working in perfect coordination to override safety protocols. Atmospheric alerts blared as Krelix triggered an emergency ventilation sequence. The sudden pressure change sent security forces scrambling for stability, creating precious seconds of chaos. Ilara slammed her hand against the airlock override, diving inside as it cycled open. The last thing she saw before the inner door sealed was Krelix being restrained by security forces, his skin glowing with a pattern she recognized as the Tellurian symbol for hope. Then the outer door opened, and void embraced her. The cold hit first, an absolute, penetrating chill that would have killed most species instantly. Earth's varying climates had given humans remarkable temperature adaptation, but even that had limits. The radiation came next, invisible but felt as a tingling across exposed skin. Most dangerous was the vacuum itself, attempting to pull dissolved gases from her bloodstream, while atmospheric pressure inside her lungs threatened to rupture delicate tissues. Ilara exhaled completely, remembering emergency training. Never hold your breath in vacuum. The artifact's energy field extended further, creating a partial barrier that slowed the effects but couldn't stop them entirely. She used her suit's maneuvering jets to propel herself toward the research vessel docks, counting seconds in her head. 45 seconds to cross the distance, 1 minute before unconsciousness, 3 minutes before permanent damage.